Now let's see what are the stages or what are the states the client and server will go through during the connection establishment phase. So initially you can assume that both of them are in closed state. So whatever I am going to write, okay, how to understand this diagram is, whatever I am going to write in these rectangular boxes, they are nothing but the states, okay, and initially both the client and server will be in the closed state, and the dotted lines, let us say there are dashed lines. So this is a dashed line, this is a dashed line, and this is a dashed line. So the dashed lines are corresponding to the server. So what server is doing, how server is transitioning from one state to other state is given by the dashed lines, and the straight line, right? So this line, a normal line, is nothing but the client. Okay, so it says that what how a client is going from one state to the other state and what is it trying to do in the transition. And then the dotted lines are actually unusual events, which means you should not worry about them. Okay, so they are not supposed to happen, but then in case if they happen, how we behave is what is shown by this dotted line, right? And on top of every line we are going to have event comma action pair, which means what event has occurred and what is the action either the client or server is taking. Okay, so let's try to understand the diagram. And before I start the diagram, one thing, you need not by heart it. So just for the sake of understanding, I'm teaching it. You need not by heart it at all. It is not required. Okay, I'm not sure if they will ask this in the exam or not. Anyway, no need of by hearting it. Even if they ask you, there will be some questions based on the logic. They will not ask you to draw the diagram in the exam. Okay, don't by heart it. Try to understand what is happening here. Now initially both the client and server are in closed state. Then now who will generally start the connection is the server side, sorry, the client side. Client side has to send the SYN packet, then only the connection will get started, right? So first thing is on the client side, see this bold line is saying that this action is taken by the client. So on the client side, client is going to call the system call called connect, right? And now what is the syntax of the system call and whether you have the same word or not, that all depends on the system you are working. Okay, and now once you call the connect, typically what will happen is your TCP layer will send out a packet with SYN control flag, right? Which means we are actually sending the SYN flag as 1. So that is what is going to happen on the client side. So this is nothing but the first step of the three-way handshake, if you remember. Then what will happen to the client? Client will go into a state called as SYN sent, which means I have just sent the SYN. Now what will client expect from the other side? From the server, client will expect the SYN plus acknowledgement, isn't it? Now let's see what happens at the server at this point. Now server is initially in the closed phase, but then it will issue a system call initially, right? So without this SYN being sent, even without getting the SYN, server will try to issue the listen. So listen system call, and it will go to a state called listen, where it will be waiting for the call, right? Where it will be waiting for the other side to send the SYN. So this is where our server is initially, right? Now from here, server, let us say it has got the SYN packet. So this dashed line says that it is what is happening with the server. Server, when it has got the SYN packet, then it will send the SYN plus acknowledgement and it will go to a state called as SYN received. Got it? So now the server is in the SYN received state and the client is in SYN sent state. But till now this connection is not established. So this is the step 2 of the three-way handshake. Got it? Now when will the connection get established? When the client gets actually the acknowledgement. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so see this. Now the client is supposed to get both the SYN as well as acknowledgement. Now it is in the SYN sent phase. Let us say it has received the SYN plus acknowledgement. Then what will client do? In this case, client is going to send the acknowledgement packet and it will move from the SYN sent into the established state. Got it? Now, when will the server move from the SYN received to established phase? Once it receives the acknowledgement from the other side. So, whenever the server receives the acknowledgement packet from the client side, so this is the event, it need not send anything, so it will directly go into the established state. Now, once they both are in the established state, they will start the data transfer. That is where the data transfer is going to happen. Got it? So, this is the step 1 where SYN is sent, and this is the step 2 where SYN plus acknowledgement is sent, and this is the step 3 where acknowledgement is sent. Got it? So finally, this is the three-way handshake, and both are in the established state, both can exchange the data. Sometimes what happens is there will be some events which are unexpected. So in case of unexpected events, what will client try to do is, let us say here it is in the SYN sent, it has sent a SYN, but then it didn't receive the SYN plus acknowledgement. Then it will wait for some time, and if it is not getting it, it is supposed to close the connection and will again restart the connection later. Got it? So that is where it is going to call the system called close, and the server will go from the SYN sent stage to again closed state. Got it? Now, from the listening state, if no one is sending you any connections, you might try to turn off the server. Then what you could say is, you can say close, then from this listen it will go to the close. Got it? And there are one more one special event where a server might try to contact some other system, and it will try to act as a client, right? So what happens is, from the listen state, a server might try to send the SYN. Actually, server is never going to initiate the connection, but then it is an unusual event, right? So in this case, what happens is, server will now get converted to the client, and it will go to the state of SYN sent, and now it will wait for the other server to which it has sent the SYN to send back the SYN and acknowledgement. So it is an unusual event. Got it? But still it is possible. And the other unusual event is, a server might try to reset the connection by using the reset system call based on various parameters. Sometimes during the negotiation phase, if it doesn't work out, then it may say reset the connection. Or if the server is overburdened, and let us say it has got many connections and all the connections are idle, or it suspects of some attack, then it can say reset. Then it is going to go into the listen phase, or it can take some other action. But whatever it is, all the dotted lines are unpredictable. Okay, you need not worry about the dotted lines. You can assume that the dotted lines are not required in case of the correct connection establishment phase. Similarly, a client may receive a SYN. So client is generally supposed to send a SYN. If a client receives a SYN, then it will act as if it is a server, and it will go to the SYN received, and it is going to send SYN plus acknowledgement. So these are unusual. A server trying to act as a client and a client trying to act as a server, these are unusual events. Sometimes they are also called as simultaneous open, which means both the server and client will try to open the connection at the other side by sending the SYN packets. These are unusual events. You need not worry about them. Just look at these two lines. So what is the bold line and what is the dashed line? So dashed line is what server is doing, and the bold line is what client is doing. Okay, fine.